Hey everybody, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pocho. It has been a little bit. I just got moved into my new place. The schedule's still a little bit tumultuous, but I finally have some time to sit down and record some brews, and I'm really excited to do so. So first things first, we're going to talk about a budget list that I have been having quite a bit of fun with and doing some ladder grinding with. It is Funstable Berzerkers. It's a Skycrag aggro slash combo-y deck where we are essentially looking at interesting synergies between madness type cards where we are discarding cards to get some sort of benefit, and any sort of card where we have Berserk in addition to the card Pummel, which gives our attacking units +2/+2, and Shugo Standard, which gives our attacking units +4/+2, and Overwhelm. So we have a bunch of Berserk cards, we have a bunch of interesting discard outlets, and then we have some Echo cards like Yeti, Troublemaker, and Unstable Form that allow us to discard half cards to generate a card's worth of advantage. So for example, if we play Hotblood Barbarian here, we can discard one half of an Unstable Form to create a Temper, which is not a great card on its own, but can be really effective due to the ability to kill some sort of small unit or to cause some sort of other kind of trouble. By the same logic, Crunch the Hoarder can discard a card like that to get itself Berserk, or it can discard a Yeti Troublemaker just to basically draw an extra card and only discard half a card. We also get to do some other interesting things that way, like cards like Snowrager allow us to discard Troublemakers to create and draw snowballs and actually trigger our tributes, which is fun stuff. And beyond that, most of the deck actually works pretty straightforward. It is just trying to build out a variety of different threats that are pretty hard to evaluate and difficult to appropriately respond to. So, like, first off, on our one slot, we have Oni Ronins and Snowcrust Yetis, the, blunt Skycrag standards for 1-drops, really powerful, do a lot of ridiculously good stuff. Snowrager plays really well with Pummel and our buff spells, and is also a card that when it gets its tribute is significantly more valuable. I actually think this card is pretty decent just for being a little 1/1 Berserker. Like, it is a hard card to not deal with on the turn that it's played. Oftentimes you save this one so that you can get some sort of cool tribute out of it, but I think it's really worth it if you do get it done. Champion of Fury, of course, another Skycrag standard, really scary threat. Definitely want this in most of our Skycrag aggro decks. And Hotblood Barbarian to do discards, as we've discussed. Acquisitive Crow creates and draws spells. We are always looking for new ways to generate card advantage in this deck since we run a lot of discard outlets. So anything that draws spells is a big deal, even if the spells are not particularly big. If Acquisitive Crow draws us something we can't really use, say a Light 'em Up or a Slow, or maybe just something that really doesn't do anything at all, like I don't know, a Lingering Influence, then we can discard that to our discard outlets such as Hotblood Barbarian or Crunch. And yeah, that tends to be really effective, but Acquisitive Crow on its own is a card that can take over games. The new health buff has given it a little bit more durability, but it's always been a card that's actually really scary every time it attacks. And this deck really leverages the card advantage that it draws to do good things. Crunch the Hoarder has both our discard mechanics and our Berserk mechanics, and those two things together are really solid. As a 3/3 Overwhelm, it's pretty well statted for everything that we want to do, and if it gets Berserk, it actually gets to be pretty nuts. So this card tends to be really powerful in the deck, and we like it quite a bit. Yeti Troublemaker is discard fodder. We used to use Cliffside Porters here, actually, just because it was something to throw away, but I kind of like having something to put down on 4 that we can actually Unstable Form into a bigger drop. Yeti Troublemaker is not a very efficient unit, but combined with Unstable Form, you can actually generate some pretty scary threats. And it is usually one of the first things discarded, but nonetheless, just having Echo cards in the deck gives us a lot of things to throw away. Northwind Herald plays well with a lot of our cheaper spells, such as Snowrager's Snowballs, Hotblood Barbarian's Tempers, Pummel, Torch, and basically anything else that we are running that's very early on. Unstable Form morphs this card into a 7-drop on the turn after it is played. You just have to be careful not to play a spell before that so that it doesn't go down to 0 cost again, but you can really get an early Northwind Herald out and blow the board board out in a very short order. Currently we're only running 2 of these because we're not trying very hard for this particular combo, but you can run as many as 4 if you want to go for maximum silliness. This is sort of something that we added on as a way to expend a little bit of card advantage since we were drawing a little bit too much, and also a way to cheat out wins with unstable form in situations where the deck might not otherwise be able to win. Our final discard outlet is Feed the Flames. Discard a card to create 2/3/1 Flame Fangs with Reckless. I actually think this card is quite solid if you're playing with Echo cards. Any way that you can abuse this is really quite good because the Flame Fangs themselves are cheap, efficient, and pretty nasty. They tend to trade with a lot of stuff. Sometimes it's as little as Avara's Favor, but more often you can actually get removal for these cards or do something cool with that. So if you turn an unstable form into 2 Flame Fangs and it only costs you the Feed the Flames itself, that can actually be pretty beneficial, and this allows us to pressure with a lot of units in a very short order. So that's the basics of the deck. We also run Pummel and Torch, of course. The Scout ability plus the +2/+2 on Berserk is really beneficial. Shugo Standard gives us the Overwhelm that we need, and everything else is just focused around making sure that we have the influence required to play all of our cards, get Champion of Fury and Feed the Flames out on time, and still play into cards like Acquisitive Crow on 3. So, the deck is pretty fun to run. It's very challenging and interesting, and I really enjoy it. So let's go ahead and show off some games, and we'll see how it plays. See you in just a moment. All right, here we are up against J Kwanzaa, first game of the night, and it looks like we got Oni Ronin, Champion of Fury, and Crunch all in one go. Granite, Waystone into Skycrag banner seems pretty cool, so that's probably what we're going to go for. The Diplomatic Seal is a little bit awkward in this deck, just because you can sometimes get into a situation where you can't activate Champion of Fury off of it, but we still feel pretty good about having it here, and this looks perfectly playable. So let's go ahead and hold on to this hand and see what we can get. Overall, I think it looks really solid. If we end up getting Snowrager's Snowball, so be it, but we can also just play ourselves a Granite Waystone and get ourselves a lot of fun in a very short period of time. All right, now if this does get removed by Torch or something like that, that makes it a little more difficult to play cards like the Champion of Fury. But we can do this a couple of different ways. We can either, oh well, we got the Seed of Fury, so that actually makes it much easier. I was thinking that we could play Snowrager here, but Champion of Fury with charge, that's really where we want to be. So let's go ahead and hit him and see what we get. All right, looks like no response there. Get ourselves up to 4. Might be a Torch response. Nope, good to go. Play the Crunch the Hoarder here. And yeah, we're off to the races. Aggro decks take advantage of anything that is playing too slowly, stuck on power, any of those issues. We're definitely gonna have a time with that. Our opponent found himself 3rd power, and he is going to be going for a lot of card draw here. So we'll do what we can, but I think we can take this pretty easy. He's probably got a Harsh Rule waiting somewhere in the wings, so I gotta be pretty careful about how we proceed from here. Torch gives Crunch Berserk, but I don't have any Pummel effect or anything interesting that I can really use here, so I think I'm just going to discard a Fire Sigil, and we're going to play out Snowrager just to get a little bit of extra damage in, because we're kind of trying to push for lethal here before my opponent gets to Harsh Rule at 5. This is the aggro deck. We want to be as aggro as possible, and we have the Torch available to deal a little extra damage if Crunch gets removed. Slay kills Crunch, funnily enough. It is actually, I think, correct to kill Champion of Fury, but that's fine. You still get 4, 5, 6 here. He does get the wanted poster play, which is certainly the reason that he wanted to go after Crunch, and I actually forgot about that wanted poster there. Just attack in, get the Berserk. Might as well just get as much damage in as possible. That puts him at 5, so Snowcrust Yeti here means that if he Harsh Rolls, we have 2 left plus the Torch. So feel pretty good about that. Just end my turn, and we'll see what he ends up doing. Like, you'd have to assume Harsh Rule here. If he has some sort of lifesteal card, he can get a little further in. Oh, nope, culled the deck, so no Harsh Rule, couldn't find the 5th power or something along those lines. We'll probably see a power played here or see something else thrown out. I think that at this point we definitely have him. He probably gets to kill Champion of Fury, but even if he does, then we have enough damage to win. So yeah, put him in a good position and go ahead and knock that one out. Alright, here we are up against Boom Judge running game number 2. Looks like Dip Seal Shugo standard. Okay, this opener's a little bit weird. I am on the draw, and I do get a 1-drop plus a 2-drop that I can play pretty quickly, so even if I draw power, I think I'm pretty happy with this result. Yeti Troublemaker is good with unstable form. There's a good early game and late game plan here, and Hotblood Barbarian can discard unstable forms, so overall I'm pretty happy with it, apart from the depleted power, which kind of slows the deck down a little bit, but sometimes that happens. We are playing a deck that has a lot of different power sources in it, and the power base might even be able to get tweaked a little bit further while still giving us some ability to play it out. Anyways, we'll play the Primal here, get the Snowcrust Yeti out. If I can't play Hotblood Barbarian, I can just play Snowrager and feel pretty good about that. Alright, Slumbering Stone, not my favorite card to see. Kind of tempted to turn it into a 2-drop since Snowcrust Yeti can then sort of just deal with it. That kind of seems like fun, but then I think Snowcrust Yeti would have some issues, so yeah, we'll just go for 2 damage here and play our Snowrager. So that leaves us with, unfortunately, another blocker. I can't really unstable form that into anything cool, which is a bit of a bummer. Vara's favor hurts, but Hotblood Barbarian is much better here, so that feels fine. Yeah, Champion of Fury is the card that I most want to play, and Yeti Troublemaker, unfortunately, is not a card that I really want to draw, so we'll just go ahead and attack for 2 here. See if we get the trade. He did keep this back as a blocker, so I'd expect to see the trade. Hotblood Barbarian discards... I'm gonna say a Yeti Troublemaker here over an unstable form, just because we have 4 Yeti Troublemakers and not enough power to cast any of them, but kind of an interesting setup overall. Okay, so one of the nice things about unstable form is that after a card berserks, we can unstable form it to remove the Reckless and turn it into something else that's useful, which is a good way to negate some of the drawbacks that that card deals. My opponent's playing some sort of Argenport list. Not really sure what it's doing at the moment, but it seems to involve a decent amount of dirtling and control. If we were faster, I'd say we'd have a pretty good chance at this, but this ended up being a slow hand with only 2 power, so we got a lot to deal with. Corendon Merchant comes down. That's an odd choice, considering that we can just temper that. And if I want to Berserk here, I can. I think I'm just going to attack in this case. It's not a bad idea to guarantee the extra damage, but if we find a Pummel or something, I want to be able to use that, and I kind of want him to focus a little bit of removal on this if he can. Okay. He's going to give my Hotblood Reckless. That's kind of annoying, but yeah, not really much we can do about that. Okay, so he'll devour that for some card draw. I need to find some fire so I can play down cards like Crunch the Hoarder. And hopefully we don't run into any more madness shenanigans in the near future. Granite Waystone, that's one of the cards I need. We'll go ahead and play Crunch here. Champion of Fury normally takes precedence, but here it kind of looks like he's just going to be playing a bunch of slow stuff. He might be playing Mokto, and if he does, then we run into other problems, but overall I think this is the best way to go. Okay, Feed the Flames gets us tributes. Not really anything cool about that. I think Umbran Reaper is probably less dangerous than most other things that we can run here, so we'll go ahead and attack in for everything. And I think Crunch gets the Infiltrate regardless of whether or not he gets... Oh, interesting. So a lot of cool things that can happen here. The one that I really like is discard a Troublemaker to play Snowrager, which in turn gets us a Snowball. And we're going to play Feed the Flames to discard another Troublemaker, make 2 Flame Fangs, and that reduces the cost of Northwind Herald to 0. The storm is upon you. And now I may get harsh rolled, but if I don't, then we're in really good shape. So let's find out. I still have a lot of gas, so there's plenty to play with. And yep, there we go. A 5/5 is not a harsh roll, so let's unstable form. Get ourselves a 7-drop. Novice Herd Rider as a 6/8 feels pretty solid. I think I'll probably stick with that. and then everything else is just going to be Skycrag Banner. I could unstable form here on one of these units, make a 4-drop, make a 2-drop. That seems very unlikely to be correct. But I think what I really just want to do here is Champion of Fury, swing with everything, go Berserk, just because we can push a bit more damage that way. And yeah, now we've got a huge amount of damage push, plus a Flame Fang to lay down, and maybe eventually a Troublemaker into a 5-drop. I find it really interesting how people always block Crunch. Doesn't really seem like the card to block, but I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so here's a bit more stuff. I've got plenty of damage on the field. Vanquish kills the Herd Rider, which certainly sucks, but now I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That feels pretty comfy. So next thing to do is, if we want to, we can unstable form this into a 4-drop. That'll get us like 3 to 4 damage in. Doesn't feel like a bad plan. I can also attack with everything and just kill this thing. I'll have to deal with Stonepetter Alchemist coming back again, and him gaining another 2 life, in addition to blocking probably 2 of my biggest units. So he'd go down to 8. I'd play a Yeti Troublemaker. You know, like, I don't have a lot of good options. I do have 2 Reckless units, and if I unstable here, I just don't feel it. I don't want to upgrade these to 2-drops if it means that Stonepetter Alchemist gets to attack in free, so we're probably just going to go ahead and swing here. I would like to see Stonepetter Alchemist get removed, and I would like to just get a Troublemaker down so I can unstable form it into something better. There's a case for Flame Fangs as well, but that's not quite going to work out. So we'll play the Troublemaker here. I can turn that into a 7-drop or a 5-drop or a 6-drop, and anywhere along those lines we might find something that wins us the game. We're betting on RNG a little bit here, but I think that overall we're pretty far ahead, so we'll see what ends up happening. Okay, gonna unstable form here. Looks like he's got some sort of trick, maybe Annihilate. Jotun Hurler's not the case, so unstable form again. I'm really concerned that he does have an Annihilate. That would be pretty rough regardless of what we get. Boltcrafter Shaman, also not what I'm looking for, but actually potentially pretty strong here. I do have a Reckless unit. If we attack with everything, I get to play down Flame Fang, still deal 2 damage, and like if I draw a Temper or something along those lines, like that's an extra 3 damage. I think it's better than, like, I'm really concerned that there's some sort of Finest Hour trick here. Like, thinking about what he's played so far, what's in his Void, what kind of stuff has he run? Like, it could just be Devour, and honestly Devour seems fairly likely. So yeah, we'll go one more time. Alright, got an Arachnodon, not at all bad. We'll attack with everything here. 5 damage feels pretty good, and if he's got the Annihilate, so be it. Not a lot I can do about that. We still get 2 in, and that's 7 right there. So now I'm a Temper away from victory. Just throw the Flame Fang. We did not get super high rolls on those unstables, but we still got good upgrades. Alright, I could expect to see some madness shenanigans here, some sort of interesting trick. Harsh Rule is obviously a threat, and a little bit sad that that got put down, but such is life. We just have to draw a Torch to win, or get one of these Troublemakers through before Stonepetter Alchemist comes up off the top. So I think we have pretty good odds to win, but we do have to get ahead of all of the removal that he's gone through. Champion of Fury, pokes in, and there you go. Plenty of different outs there, lots of interesting options, but yeah, just barely made it in. Good stuff. Alright, here we are again, up against the dark side, and this is a great opener if I had power, but not good otherwise. So, yeah, as openers go, this one's fine. Oni Ronin gets Pummel, so it's probably going to stay alive and get a bunch of war cries, and that can be pretty useful. Everything else about it kind of sucks. We don't have any 2-drops. We could just lose this to some random removal and get stuck, which is not what you want to see out of aggro. Generally pretty bad if that happens. Okay, so we attack here, get our war cry, and if our opponent plays anything to respond, so be it. Nah, looks like he's just going to get pummeled. Skycrag banner here fixes blue, but I think we just want to try and go for more threats because we're playing against the other aggro mirror, and we really want to beat that if we can. I think overall we shouldn't have too many problems with it. We've got unstable forms, we got plenty of different shenanigans, so yeah, let's just go ahead and I'm going to discard an unstable here, play a Primal, and swing for 2. Now I've got Temper to deal with small Skycrag threats, and my opponent appears to be stuck on Influence. Or maybe he's just playing mono blue, it's hard to say. But yeah, it looks like since he hasn't played anything yet, we're in pretty good shape. So we can definitely take advantage of that. If I Berserk here, he can Lightning Strike. Okay. But we can Pummel, which is 8 and 2. And since he has Wisdom, we have to assume he actually is some sort of mono blue control. Playing Oni Ronin into that feels really bad because we could get Hailstormed. I'm a little bit worried about that. I need to get the damage through, so we might just have to play it out. One thing I can do at this point is upgrade the 2-drop into a 3-drop, which might have more health than a Hailstorm implies. There aren't a lot of 3-drops with 3 health or more, but if I unstable form now, in addition to playing Oni Ronin, then I don't get Hailstorm quite as badly. That feels kind of tempting. Let's give it a shot. Master at Arms, not really what I'm looking for. Well, we did what we could, and let's see if he's got the Hailstorm. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Cobalt Waystone played down. Torgoff Ice Cap Trader. So he's, you know, like, looking at a decent amount of damage here, but I think we're in pretty good shape. We just attack with everything. I can Temper Torgoff, or I can use Feed the Flames to make 2 3-1s. And either option feels pretty good, but I think that I like the one where he doesn't get to draw and discard any. So we'll end our turn, and we'll see if we can get some Feed the Flames cards down next turn. Primal's there, into Jotun Feastcaller. Yep, that's to be pretty expected off of any sort of mono blue. At this point, I can either attack in, or I can play Crunch and not attack, and I'm kind of tempted by the Crunch not attack plan. We're kind of asking to get permafrosted at this point, but if he gets permafrosted, there's still quite a bit that we can play with. Okay. Well, now things are getting interesting. So the attack here looks really good. It's basically just 7 damage. If he does any sort of weird blocks, then we get our draw discard, which is really, really good. If he does a double block, then we get, you know, the Jotun Feastcaller or the 5/6, either which would be extremely solid. I'm gonna say let's kill the Thunderstrike Dragon. Hit him for 2. Feed the Flames gets us a 3-1 and a 3-1. Now if he plays a Thunderstrike Dragon, we have 4 damage in. We're still 1 short. I need a Pummel. I need some sort of shenanigans. Using my unstable form early did hurt me, but I'm very, very close to lethal, and Hotblood Barbarian kind of gets it, kind of doesn't. A little bit close. I'm really tempted to hold Hotblood Barbarian because the temper, but we actually don't need to pierce his Aegis right now. What we need is to get through with as many attackers as we can. So we're going to go ahead and do that. The one problem here is if he plays another blocker, then life gets really hard, but the more attackers we're playing here, the less his Jotun Hurler can attack because he has to be defensive here. And in fact, he just sacrificed a blocker, so he must be looking for some sort of card that he can use. Didn't find it. And yeah, without the ability to actually play a blocker or a second like Permafrost, well, I take it from him, so not too bad. Nice thing about Skycrag decks is that they are frequently pretty cheap and easy to build, and they often involve a lot of difficult and scary decisions when it comes to basically deciding whether or not you are pushing for the win or trying to adapt to a situation and build out your board to get into a place where you can get the win. You're always kind of aimed at their face, but you have to make a lot of tough decisions, and this is a hard deck to play. I really think it's a lot of fun to do as a result of that, and I'm looking to show off some more interactive decks of this kind. But yeah, like there's a lot of decisions here about whether or not you want to discard cards for things like Temper, whether or not you want to try to sacrifice cards for things like Snowrager's Tribute. Those are small little benefits that may not actually be useful to you, but also could be extremely beneficial for pushing out Northwind Heralds, killing that one key card, getting you the reach that you need. Cards like Acquisitive Crow or Hotblood Barbarian, where do you want to put your Pummels? Where do you want to put your Shugo standards? Like, what kind of, are you trying to build a board wide and go in for one big swing, or are you trying to just go as aggressive as possible, which I would say is usually the case, in order to just push your opponent down to as little health as possible? There are a lot of things to consider with a deck like this, and so it's pretty challenging and rewarding, and it should teach you a lot about what's good and what's not when you're trying to attack in with units and basically just do that kind of stuff. So yeah, if you like the deck, feel free to subscribe, and you can see more interesting decks of this kind. We will definitely be doing some more tuning on this one, and we'll see if it comes out a little bit ahead of where it's at. But at the moment it's positive, and I'm enjoying it enough that I really wanted to share it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I am Pocho, and this has been Eternal Brews. See you all later, and have a good night.